Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Hurry Up. I'm your host, Adam. Let's get into this. So, I just want to clear the air on a few things that many people tend to get mad about or express displeasure in, that I don't like, may not like certain players on the team, and so on and so forth. So, we're going to address that. The number one topic being the quarterback, DJ. Look, people have your opinions. It is what it is. I'll tell you a story, okay? This is how it worked. So you have no proof of this because, again, I had a 10-year gap between posting, right? My last post is in like 2012. It's now 2022. You know, you're not going to find it anywhere on there because I wasn't making content at the time. But in 2019, when I was scouting the quarterbacks, knowing the Giants were definitely in the market to getting one at the twilight of Eli Manning's career. We knew it was coming. They wanted Justin Herbert. He decided he did not want to come back. He wanted to play with his brother. I can accept that. I can't be mad about that. However, when I scouted the quarterbacks, the one guy I knew that the Giants weren't going to get was Kyler Murray. I knew hands down right away that Arizona was going to pick him. There was not even an ounce that they were going to trade out. They basically brought in that coaching staff for that particular quarterback. I scouted him. I still watched because I wanted to make sure. I saw a lot of things I liked about Kyler Murray that I said, man, I wish he was on the Giants. But at the time, be that as it may, the other two quarterbacks that were fighting for the Giants' job, three of them actually, were Locke, Haskins, and Daniel Jones. So I knew that Daniel Jones was going to be picked or really in the Giants' radar, not because I knew, but once I looked at him at the Senior Bowl, the David Cutcliffe connection, the Manning camp connection, knowing Manning, getting all those accolades, his coach basically saying he's better than Peyton and Eli, really upselling him. I kind of figured he was going to be the guy. Now, I figured he was going to be there at 17 because the draft pundits were like, well, he's going to a second-round pick. It was a fifth-round pick. He could possibly be a first-round pick. The first team that we think is going to get him is probably New York, but we don't think they're going to pick him at 6, blah, 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 blah. Right? So the night of the draft, leading up to it, I was watching NFL Network, and Daniel Jeremiah, who does a great job of scouting, was a scout, basically threw out something that I'll never forget that resonated with me. He goes, and again, this was about an hour before the draft, or maybe it was during the draft. Either way, it was on draft night. And he said, if you're going to pick a quarterback, you're going to usually you pick quarterbacks 10 spots ahead of where you think they're going to be. That's usually, he said, I talked to an exec, that's usually how they work. So if you think a guy is, top 15, then you might take him at 5 just because you don't want to wait till 15 to get him, right? Especially if there's a limited number of quarterbacks, as there were in this draft. There's only about, 3 guys even worthy of first-round picks. So the Giants came up on the clock, and I figured Josh Allen at the time was there. Not the quarterback Josh Allen, the DN Josh Allen. And I thought, maybe they would pick him here. So, obviously the Giants pick him at 6. I'm not surprised. I'm okay with it. Turned to my wife, who wish she was here now, could confirm that I said, well, I may not have picked him here, but I understand why they did it. Right? I understand why they did it. You want your guy, get him now. Don't worry about, hopefully, that he drops to 17. Right? I was on board with it. This kid, Daniel Jones, as soon as he walks on stage, gets booed out the building by Giant fans. They show his video in the video booth at Giant Stadium. Booed out of Giant Stadium. A dude who works on Giant Insider, which is a publication for the Giants, was so upset about the Daniel Jones pick, he walked outside in the middle of the pouring rain. He was so upset with Daniel Jones. Many of content creators on YouTube didn't like the pick either. And now all of a sudden, 4 years later, 3 years later, whatever it may be, you're supposed to now all of a sudden, everything is rainbows and butterflies? Why? Because he's on the New York Giants? That's my point. My point is, I like Daniel. I scouted him. I watched every cut up and film and game of this kid to make sure that when I put my name on him being a good quarterback or a guy that I believed in, I understood it. But more than anybody else, everybody hated the kid. Then guess what happens? Preseason comes in. Ryan Clark. Yeah, I heard you, Ryan Clark. Those passes that he's throwing would have been intercepted with real DB, blah, 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 blah. Okay, week 3 of 2019 comes in and has a spectacular game against Tampa Bay, and away we go. right? But ever since that game, he's been an average quarterback. And the things that he needed to work on, which they still are there, which was the running recklessly, the processing in the pocket awareness, the turnovers, are still here today. So those things are what turned me on Daniel Jones. A lot of that turned me. And last year, I just had enough. So this year, when I come out and I tell people about Daniel Jones and some of the things that he needs to work on and that he needs to prove to me, I get eviscerated. Well, you're not a Giant fan. You don't want to support your guy. Well, I can say that same argument about people who don't like Kenny Golladay and who don't like Kadarius Toney. They're on the team. Why don't you like them? Don't worry, I'll wait. And only because of John Mara is this kid even still on the ball club. So before we do anything else and you guys eviscerate me, just know that I did my due diligence. I saw a guy, and honestly, his week 1 performance, people are going to gloss over it. He wasn't that great. He was Daniel Jones. He just was an average guy. He's been doing that same stuff for years. Interceptions, occasional deep throw. I mean, hell, do we miss the throw that he had to Darius Slayton against the Vikings his first year? I mean, he makes big plays. That's what he does. He can throw the ball deep. Any quarterback that's in the NFL could do that. My point is not about to belittle him or make him feel bad or not even like the guy. I'm just giving you opinions on things that I see and others have seen. And reasons why I don't think he may be the answer here. And after game 1, if he plays like that going to 17 games, he won't be here. I'm sorry to say that to people, he won't. And I know that we talk about Daniel Jones and beat a dead horse and Adam get off it. I just had to make this video very clear because I got a lot of content creators telling me, well, you need to like him. He's on the Giants. You're not a Giant fan because you don't support the Giants. I support the NY. Okay? Those same people who don't like, who want me to support Daniel Jones are the same people who are telling me Kadarius Toney is this or Kenny Golladay is that. We don't have to like a player. We just have to like the team. And collectively, as a Giant fan, I support the NY. And I support Giants pride. And I support the helmet, the New York Giants helmet. As a matter of fact, I have Daniel Jones' calendar right over here in my man cave. Just so you know. There he is, over there in the corner. See that calendar? He's over there. There it is. So don't tell me that I don't support Daniel Jones. Yeah, he had a solid game. It was average. That's what he does. I'm just enough of it. Especially from a guy who studied this guy going into the draft. Especially a guy who accepted all his flaws and now wants more. Wants more from the kid. Wants the kid that they said was going to be the next Peyton Manning, the next better than Eli Manning. That's the guy I want. I don't want the guy that was a pedestrian because guess what? Eventually Saquon Barkley is not going to have 165 yards. That's just not how the NFL works. So at some point he's got to put the team on his back like Saquon Barkley did. But I'm just having this video to let people know that I supported Daniel Jones, and after a while, I thought about it, rewatched a lot of tape. I wanted more. This is what I want to see. But now, because we win a game, it's kumbayas and rainbows, and you're still a hater, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a hater. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. People don't like it because it's critical of the quarterback. And somebody that I respect in the content space says, you can be critical of the quarterback. You can. And I think you can. I'm not saying he's perfect. Good. Go, Daniel. Show me. Come on. Keep going. You had 2 touchdowns. Good. I mean, he drove him downfield. But if you look at it, Barkley had a lot of that run in the fourth quarter and the third quarter. So now he's got to show me something. Show me something against Carolina. You can't just have one-off games and be pedestrian. Guess what? Pedestrian doesn't win you games. Okay, what's the flaw with Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo? Those 2 guys come to mind. What is their flaws? They can't win the big one. They can't get over the hump. Well, guess what? If Daniel Jones is here, he's probably going to end up in that same tier of quarterbacks. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But I want a guy who can get through the chaos. Now people are going to tell me, well, Joe Burrow threw 4 interceptions. This guy did it. All right. They're allowed to have a bad day at the office. But at the end of the day, I know what Joe Burrow is going to give me when all 17 games. I know what Justin Herbert's going to give me all 17 games. Okay? So I just wanted to say this because as a guy who followed him, as a guy who knew at his combine, when people were saying he couldn't throw the deep ball, I watched his combine and his pro day and his tape. And I'm like, what are they talking about? What are you talking about? Can't throw the deep ball. I also had friends who told me about Andrew Thomas being a bust, saying the Giants picked the wrong one. I said, did you study any tape? Did you look at any of the film? No. Why do you think he's a bust? Oh, because the national media said he was a bust. Didn't even bother doing any tape work. You got to do tape work. You got to study it. The things that you see where the player has to improve. Look at Andrew Thomas. Why is he so good? An all-pro. An all-pro he could be playing for right now. 2 seasons. This is his 3rd season. And right now we're considering him possibly the best tackle in football, some of us are saying. Yet our quarterback, who's been here 4 years, has the same problems that he has in a rookie. But we don't want to criticize him because, oh my God, you're going to bully Daniel Jones. No. I'm giving him the same respect I give every other player. Same thing with Barkley. I knew Barkley was going to be good. The only thing he needed to work on was running downhill and blocking. And right now he's running downhill. He got the memo. He said, this is what I need to do. And he did it. Daniel Jones shouldn't have to be reamed out on the field for throwing an interception. And then come back and do it. Don't throw the interception. I can take an interception where you throw a 50-50 ball and the guy picks it off. Fine. I can take an interception when you throw the ball deep and it's like a punt. I can get all those things. I can't get things that are still in your repertoire 4 years down the road. Every player that has been good that the Giants have drafted has improved. Barkley, McKinney, Thomas, 3 come to mind. Now we're hoping that Tony can do it. But he's got to get on the field and get the ball. And if they don't want him, get rid of him. Don't just sit here and use the guy for 9 plays. I don't mean to go off on a tangent or anything like this, but I had to get off my chest a few things that have been bothering me because people have just been saying that I'm either not a fan or not enough of a Giant fan or Giant Nation. I told you, if the kid comes through Daniel Jones, we'll have no problems. But if I keep seeing the same problems that keep cropping up, it's going to be time to move on. And he needs to learn to slide better because the way he slid, if you rewatch the games, guys are going to go after his head. It's going to happen. In the pocket, need to be more comfortable. His feet are constantly moving. It's not a bad thing to critique a player. It means I love the team. It means I care enough to go out there and give a valid opinion with my educated eyes and the knowledge that I have accumulated over the 20 years I've been watching football. This is a guy who sat through the Dave Brown era, who knew Dave Brown was sucky. Knew it. And still went out there and tried to support the kid. Now, granted, I was a young buck at that time. I was naive. Now I understand it. And people are going to say this about, Eli Manning gave you trouble too. Eli Manning took all the shit that we gave him and he still rose to the top. And you knew about him in 2004 when he came in. Because his first game against the Cowboys, he did the exact same thing. He changed the play, Omaha, gave the ball to Tiki Barber, and they won the game. In 2005, he beat the undefeated Broncos to a pass in the back of the end zone to Amani Toomer, and there was countless other victories that he had. In 2006, he had a game against the Philadelphia Eagles, where he throws a deep ball to Plaxico Burress. Those are 3 games right off the bat that I know that he came back. Now, we can say whatever you want about he had these guys and they did this. That's not my problem. That's not my problem that the Giants screwed it up. Which they did. But at some point, the cream has to rise to the top. They screwed it up for Saquon Barkley. Guess what? He was Rookie of the Year with the shittiest line he's ever been around. Andrew Thomas had 8 games where everybody was calling him the next Eric Flowers. Guess what? We're saying that he's going to possibly be an all-pro this year. Xavier McKinney played half a season, broke his foot, and guess what? He's the leader of the defense now. So Before you come at me and telling me about I need to like a player or people need to support a guy because he's on the team, how about you all do a self-check and check yourself about Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney and even Shepard? Because if those guys are on the team and you don't like them, you got to support them too. So stop complaining when you don't like his answers in a media session. If he's on the team, according to everybody, you should support him. But what? It's different because what? It's Daniel Jones? Give me a break. This has been another edition of the Hurry Up. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'm out.